Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to today's chemistry session. Okay, so last class we already started with solutions, right? The second chapter, solutions. We have begun with that. We have discussed what it means by the term solutions, right? What is a solutions? Can we call, say, like sugar dissolved in water? Is that a solution? Or chalk powder dissolved in water? Will that form a solution? Mud dissolved in water. Is that a solution? Or if you have some alloys like brass or bronze, etc., is that a solution? Or we can say, like, if you have oxygen mixed with say nitrogen, is that a solution? Can we call that a solution? For all these questions, now you have an answer, right? Because we already studied it properly, right? If you don't have answers for these, you have to go back and you have to revise last class portions. I hope you have well revised that and you are very aware what this term solutions means, right? What else we discussed last class? We have seen different terms like solute, solvent. What do you mean by an aqueous solution? What do you mean by a binary solution? What are the different types of solution? We can have different types of solutions based on like the physical state of solute and solvent, right? Solvent can be liquid, some sugar dissolved in liquid, also say like oxygen dissolved in water. All these like different types of solutions, like based on the physical state of solute and solvent. We have seen that, we have done that already, right? We are well confident on these things. What else we discuss? We also address the elephant in the room, that is concentration, a very important property of solution, concentration. What do you mean by concentration, and what are the different ways by which you can represent or you can express concentration? We can express concentration, the strength of a solution, using mass percentage, volume percentage, mass by volume percentage, parts per million, molarity, normality, molality. All those things we have done and dusted, right? You are very aware of that, isn't it? If you have any confusion, any lack of clarity, you have to clarify it by now itself, or you have to go back and you have to turn the pages and you have to revise all those portions. That is a necessary thing. After every class you have to revise things, whatever you have learned, and you have to come prepared. Okay, I hope all of you have done that. Okay, fine. So the agenda of today's session is to discuss another very important property of solutions, which is solubility. Okay, a very familiar term, right? Like it looks very familiar, right? Solubility, you have heard it many times. And what are the different factors affecting solubility? There are different factors like temperature, how temperature is gonna affect solubility, how pressure is influencing solubility, or is there any other factors that can affect or change solubility? Okay, so we'll discuss one by one. First of all, let's straight away dive into the definition of solubility. Let's understand what this term means. Like we should have a proper clarity on that, right? So first of all, I'll start with the definition. That is, solubility is the maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved in a given solvent at a particular temperature. Okay, I'll repeat. It is the maximum amount of solute that you can dissolve in a given solvent at a particular temperature. Okay, so to discuss, I'll give you a situation. Say you have a cup of tea and you added some X grams of sugar into it, and that X grams of sugar completely dissolved it. So is that X grams equal to the solubility of sugar in that tea? What do you think? Is that X grams equal to the solubility? No, it is not. Why it is not? Because maybe you can add more sugar and more sugar you can dissolve in it, right? So solubility is the maximum amount that you can dissolve in that cup of tea at that particular temperature, given the temperature is not changing. Okay, so it is the maximum amount. So you added X grams and that X grams completely dissolved. So that is not solubility, right? You can further dissolve sugar. So that difference you have to distinguish. It is the maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved in a solvent at a particular temperature. Okay, fine. So you are very aware of the term solubility, what it means, right? Now we'll see what are the different factors that can influence this property of solution solubility. Okay, so first one is nature of solute and solvent. When I say nature of solute and solvent, what do you mean? Is it the color of the solute or the smell of the solute solvent? No, it is not. It is, we have to define it in terms of chemistry, right? So it is not how it looks, but its polarity. Is that a polar solute, a non-polar solute, a polar solvent, or a non-polar solvent? First of all, I'll just explain it, and then I'll go into detail. So first of all, we can say polar solutes are soluble in polar solvents, and non-polar solutes are soluble in non-polar solvents. Don't wonder what is this polar and non-polar, because you have already studied it in last year's chemical bonding, right? You remember what is this term polar molecules, non-polar molecules, they mean? Yeah, polar molecules means a molecule which have a dipole moment. There is a large electronegativity difference between the two atoms, or the n number of atoms in the molecule. So there is an electronegativity difference. So there is a difference in polarity. There is a charge separation. We know NaCl is an example. That's a polar molecule, right? Na, sodium is electropositive one, and chlorine have a high electronegativity. So there is a electronegativity difference between them. So chlorine will pull the electron pair more towards it, which means that will have a small negative charge, delta negative will put, and the sodium will have a delta positive. So this is a polar molecule. And if NaCl, if common salt is our solute, okay, that is a polar solute, and that will be soluble in a polar solvent, which is water, H2O. There is an electronegativity difference between oxygen and hydrogen, right? So the H2O or water is a polar molecule. So water is a polar solvent in which we can dissolve polar solutes like NaCl. Very clear? Similarly about non-polar also, like non-polar solutes are soluble in non-polar solvents. Let's take an example, like when you studied last year hydrocarbons. You remember studying the chapter hydrocarbons? Okay, like you have seen methane, ethane, propane, all these things there, right, in hydrocarbons, and you have studied these alkanes are not soluble in water, right? Because these alkanes are non-polar molecules. They don't have a polarity. So they are not soluble in water, which is a polar solvent. And these non-polar molecules, alkanes, are soluble in a non-polar solvent, which is like benzene, CCl4, etc. So we can say in general, like dissolves like. Similar kind of solutes are soluble in similar kind of solvents. A polar solute is soluble in polar solvent, and non-polar solute is soluble in non-polar solvent. Is that very clear? So that is our first factor that is affecting solubility, nature of solute and nature of solvent. We can say like dissolves like, to remember, to memorize it, right? Okay, fine. So I hope you guys are very clear with that first factor that affecting solubility. Let's move into the second important, one of the very important factor that can influence solubility, and that is, remember I mentioned before, right, in the introduction to the solubility, I just mentioned that. What would be the another factor? Of course, temperature, right? It is temperature. How temperature is going to affect solubility? Any idea? Okay, so here we can have two situations. How temperature affects solubility, it depends what kind of solution that you are dealing with. It's not same for all kind of solution. It depends on what kind of solution that you are dealing with. So first situation, let's take a solid dissolved in a liquid. Let's say a sugar dissolved in water, right? So that kind of a solution. A solid in liquid solution. Okay, a liquid solution, that is what we are discussing. Okay, solid in liquid solution. Okay, so here the dissolving process, when a sugar molecule get dissolved in water, that process is exothermic or endothermic? Is that an exothermic process or endothermic process? What do you think? It is an endothermic process. Sugar dissolving in water or a solid solute dissolving in a solid liquid solvent is an endothermic process. So that dissolving is an endothermic process. So according to Le Chatelier's principle, remember that term, Le Chatelier's principle? Something that we studied last year, equilibrium chapter, right? What does Le Chatelier principle say? You introduce any change into a system at equilibrium, the system will rearrange itself to nullify the effects of the change, right? The system will do something so that it will try to nullify or cancel the effects of the change that you introduce. So if you say, like, if you try to increase the temperature, what the system will do, it will try to decrease the temperature. Somehow it will try to decrease the temperature. It will rearrange and decrease the temperature. If you increase the pressure, it will try to decrease the pressure. If you add some concentration of some reactants, it will try to decrease the concentration of that reactant. It will try to, or the system at equilibrium, it won't, it will not be willing to disturb its equilibrium. So it want to be in that state of equilibrium. That's why it will rearrange somehow and try to come back to its equilibrium position. Okay. So coming to our point, so when you increase the temperature of this solution, solid in liquid solution, what the system will do? System will try to decrease the temperature. So it will support the endothermic reaction. Endothermic reaction is the reaction where the temperature can be decreased, right? Temperature of the system can be decreased. Okay. So earlier I mentioned this dissolving process is an endothermic reaction. So when you increase the temperature, more and more dissolving will happen. Why? Because that is the endothermic process, right? So more and more solute particles will get dissolved because that is the endothermic process. System will support the endothermic process in order to decrease the temperature, in order to nullify the change that you introduced. You have increased the temperature, system will try to decrease it, so it will support endothermic process, so more and more solutes will be dissolved. Okay, so what we learned, for a solid solute dissolving in liquid, when you increase the temperature, solubility increases. Why? Because this dissolving process is an endothermic process. Very clear? So that is why say you adding sugar to a cold water, tea or a hot tea, more sugar will be soluble in hot tea, right? Because its solubility will be more. Solubility will increase with temperature for this kind of a solution. Very clear? Okay, so I mentioned there was two type of solutions, right? One is the solid in liquid solution. Now what about the other one, gas in liquid solution? What if a gas is getting dissolved in a liquid? How is it different? Okay, so an example is, let's say, oxygen dissolving in water, right? Like say you have a pond or a river or something, there should be some oxygen content dissolved in this water, right? So how temperature affect this dissolution? We'll see that. Here, a gas dissolving in a liquid is an exothermic process. It is not endothermic, it is an exothermic process. Which means when a gas is dissolving in liquid, it releases heat. So heat increases, right? So when you heat the system, when you heat that water or whatever liquid that you are taking, when you heat it, the temperature is increasing. So according to our Le Chatelier's principle, the system will try to decrease the temperature. So it will try to support the endothermic process. But here we discuss the dissolving is exothermic. So the opposite will be endothermic, right? So the dissolved things will try to come out. The dissolving is endothermic, dissolving is exothermic, but the system wants to support the opposite, endothermic. So the solubility decreases, right? So that's what happens for a gas dissolving in a liquid, solubility decreases. Why? Because the dissolving process is an exothermic process. So as the temperature increases, the system will try to decrease the temperature according to Le Chatelier's principle. So it will support endothermic process, which will in turn decrease the solubility, right? Very clear. So two situations we discussed: what happened to, or how temperature affects the solubility of a solid in liquid, and how temperature affects the solubility of a gas in liquid solution. Two type of solution. It's different for both, right? So you have to understand the difference. How is it different, or why is it different for two type of solutions? Is that very clear? Okay, if it is very clear, I have a question for you. Like let's take some aquatic organisms, say like a fish or something. So these aquatic organisms, are they more comfortable in hot water or cold water? And why? Why? You will have one answer, and why is it so? So with whatever we studied now, just think about it. Like aquatic organisms, are they more comfortable in cold water or in hot water? Don't say like they like cold climate, so they are comfortable in cold water. Not that. Like you have to explain in terms of chemistry, right? Whatever we have studied now, in terms of that you have to explain. Not like not like the climate, like fishes like cold climate. It's not what I expect from you. You have to think. You are capable of coming up with a logical answer from whatever we have studied by now. What is it? Yeah, I hope most of you would have found out or arrived at a logical explanation. What is it? Can anybody explain? Yeah, like whatever we just studied now itself, like oxygen dissolving in water, that will decrease with temperature, right? So hot water will have less oxygen dissolved in it, isn't it? And cold water will have more oxygen dissolved in it, right? Like when the temperature increases, the solubility of oxygen in water, gas in liquid, will decrease. That's what we studied now, right? So in cold water, aquatic organisms will get more oxygen. So they will have more oxygen content in cold water than in hot water. So they will be more comfortable in cold water than in hot water. Is that very clear? Okay, fine. So that was our second very important property of, or factor that is affecting solubility. And we have one more factor that can affect solubility, that is pressure. Okay, so we'll see how pressure is going to affect solubility. Okay, so this thing, like how pressure affects solubility, that is meaningful or that is relevant only if gases are involved, isn't it? Because pressure, we know liquids or solids, they are not compressible. So pressure don't have a influence on solids or liquids, right? It is when gases involved, this pressure has some role, right? Okay, fine. So if you have some gas dissolving in liquid, how pressure is gonna influence the solubility? That will be explained by a very famous law, that is Henry's law. Okay, we have a law called Henry's law, which explains the effect of solubility of a gas in a liquid. Okay, so what does Henry's law says? Henry's law says that solubility of a gas in a liquid is directly proportional to the pressure of the gas above the liquid. Okay, so you have a liquid, say consider it a closed container, like you have a liquid and there is some gas, say if you want to dissolve oxygen in water, like you have a liquid, above that you have oxygen. So solubility of this oxygen in water is directly proportional to the pressure of this oxygen above this water surface. Above this water surface, what is the pressure exerted by this oxygen? If that is a high pressure, then more oxygen can dissolve in it. If there is only very less oxygen, very less pressure from oxygen, then very less oxygen will be dissolved. So the solubility of this gas in this liquid is directly proportional to the pressure exerted by that gas above that liquid. Okay, so I just explained the definition only, like what exactly Henry's law says. I'll explain further with examples, don't worry, but is this very clear, like what the definition says? If you have a gas above the surface of a liquid, what is the solubility of that gas in the liquid? That will be proportional to the pressure of the gas above the liquid. If there is more pressure exerted by that gas, more of that gas can get dissolved. Okay, so a very familiar example is this, our soft drinks and all. I'll explain it with that example. Okay, so I hope like all of you are very familiar with this soft drinks, right? Which is your favorite one? Okay, like all of you have different favorite ones, right? Like soft drinks, right? That you like. So whatever, anyway, all those soft drinks, irrespective of whichever brand that you like, when you open that, what you can experience? It opens with a sound, right? A fizzing sound it opens with, right? Why is it so? Have you ever wondered, like when you open a soft drink bottle or a soda bottle for the first time, it opens with a sound. Why is it so? When you open a mineral water bottle, it won't open like that, right? It won't make any sound. So why is it so? Have you ever wondered that? Yeah, it is due to the release of or some gas is going out of that bottle, and that's why you're having some sound, right? Then what gas? Is that oxygen? Is that hydrogen? Is that carbon dioxide? What is it? We also call these things carbonated drinks, right? So of course it is carbon dioxide. Okay, so why is it so? I'll explain it with this Henry's law. Okay, so when you have, what is our aim? Like when you make a soft drink, we want to dissolve maximum or more carbon dioxide in that soft drink bottle. Okay, that is when you get that taste of these soft drinks. Like, I mean, it has a particular taste, right? Like that that is obtained when carbon dioxide is dissolved in the liquid. Okay, so to dissolve maximum carbon dioxide in the liquid, according to Henry's law, the pressure of the gas above the liquid should be high, right? When the pressure is high, solubility also is high. That's what Henry's law says, right? So this soda water bottle or this whatever carbonated drink, that bottle, we are sealing it at high pressure of carbon dioxide, so that more carbon dioxide can get dissolved in the water. You have that bottle, there is water, and above that water there is carbon dioxide, and you seal the bottle with high pressure of carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is taken at high pressure, okay, so that more carbon dioxide can get dissolved in the bottle. Is that very clear? According to Henry's law, when pressure increases, more of the gas can get dissolved in the solution. So the whatever Henry's law says, we are applying it for the manufacturing of carbonated drinks, right? So that is one very important application of Henry's law. You can be asked like to explain the applications of Henry's law. So this is a very important practical application of Henry's law. Very clear? Any doubts? Okay, fine. Next time when you open a like say soft drink bottle, make sure you notice that properly, and you have to, every time you do that, you have to just think of Henry's law. Okay, like that's when it's very what to say, like the recollecting Henry's law will be very often then, right? Like whenever you pick up a soft drink bottle, you're gonna think about this Henry's law, all this stuff. So at that time, just go to the temperature, how the temperature influence solubility also. So that entire revision will be, every time you take a carbonated drink bottle, you're gonna do a revision, isn't it? Yeah, that's fine. Next, so one of the very important applications of Henry's law we already did, that is this carbonated drinks. And there is two more important applications of Henry's law that is explained in your NCERT. So we'll just discuss that as well. Okay. Second one is just think of like for now you consider yourself as a traveler. Okay, you are going to a high altitude. You are a mountaineer. Okay, you are a mountaineer. So you are going to a high altitude. So as the altitude increases, what will you experience? If anybody of you have like have went for some trekking or something to a high altitude, like I'm saying a considerable high altitude, like say you are going to climb Himalaya or some like very high altitude stuff. So what happens? There will be a very less availability of oxygen at the top, right? As the altitude increases, what happens? Pressure decreases, right? When altitude increases, pressure decreases. That is a fact that you already know, right? When altitude increases, pressure decreases. So according to Henry's law, when this atmospheric pressure decreases, so the solubility of this air in our blood is going to decrease. According to Henry's law, when the pressure of this air around us decreases at high altitude, the solubility of that air in our blood, that is going to decrease, isn't it? So as a result, our body parts will not get the oxygen they require, right? The body parts won't get enough oxygen for their functioning, and hence you will feel a very difficult condition of like you won't be able to think properly, you will feel dizziness. So these kind of difficulties will be experienced due to this lack of oxygen availability due to a decrease in pressure at high altitude. And this condition is called anoxia. So this difficulty or dizziness or this condition is called anoxia. Okay, so what is anoxia? When you go to a high altitude, mountaineers, they will have a reduced pressure there. So as a result of this less pressure of atmosphere, the solubility of air in their blood also decreases. As a result, their body parts won't get enough oxygen, so they will feel a very difficult condition of dizziness, unable to think properly, and etc. So that is called anoxia. Okay, so with this condition we can explain using Henry's law. So that is another use of Henry's law or application of Henry's law. Fine. Okay, we have one more application, a third application of Henry's law. So this time you are not you are also traveling for this one also, but now this time you are going underwater. Like you are not a mountaineer, you are a scuba diver. Okay, so think of yourself as a scuba diver. Okay, you are going to a depth. Okay, so you are carrying this oxygen, the air cylinder and everything with you, and when you are going to a depth, what happens? The opposite, right? The pressure will increase at a depth, right? On the top of the mountain, the pressure was low, but when you are going to a depth, the pressure is increasing, isn't it? Okay, so when the pressure increases, more of this, whatever you are carrying, if you are carrying air in your cylinder, more of this air will dissolve in your blood, right? And when more air dissolve in your blood, no problem, we are getting enough oxygen from that air contained oxygen, so more of this oxygen are dissolved in the blood, no problem, no worries. Okay, but when you come to the surface suddenly or immediately when you are coming to the surface, what happened? There is a sudden decrease in pressure, right? There is a sudden decrease in pressure. Pressure decreases means solubility also decreases. So there is a sudden decrease in solubility as well. So this dissolved air in the blood have to immediately come out of the blood, because there is a sudden decrease in solubility when you come to the surface, because the pressure is decreasing suddenly, so there is a sudden decrease in solubility. So the dissolved air in the blood, they have to come out of the blood. So this nitrogen gas dissolved in blood, that will form bubbles, that will bubbles out of the blood. Okay, and that is a very painful condition called bends. Bends, bends. Okay, so that is another important application of Henry's law explained in your NCERT. What is it? I'll repeat once again. When you go to a depth, you are carrying if you are carrying air, okay, that is why you cannot carry air. Okay, if you are carrying air in your cylinder, okay, you go to a depth, the pressure increases, hence solubility increases. We already studied that. And when solubility increases, more of this air will dissolve in your blood, no problem. But when you come to the surface, immediately there is a sudden drop in pressure, and hence this air dissolved. A major portion of that will be nitrogen. Air has some 78% nitrogen gas, right? So this nitrogen gas bubbles out of the blood, which is a very painful condition. You can see some rashes kind of thing in your skin and all. You will feel a very painful condition. Okay, so that is bends. And what will these scuba divers do in order to avoid this? They will mix helium gas in their cylinder. Okay, I'll explain why is it so. When they mix helium gas in their cylinders, what is this helium? You know, it is a noble gas, right? This is a non-polar molecule. Helium is a non-polar molecule. And what we studied before, a non-polar molecule will not be soluble in polar solvent like water or blood, like whatever, right? So non-polar solutes, or these are noble gases. They have less intermolecular force of attraction, so they are less soluble. Okay, their solubility is very less. So by mixing helium in the cylinder, we are decreasing the solubility of this entire gas that we are taking in our blood. The solubility, as you go at depth, the pressure increases, the solubility immediately increases, but due to the helium content, the solubility is not that high. Okay, so that much excess of solubility you are not having now, because you have mixed helium gas. Hence, less gas only is dissolving in blood, so less amount of nitrogen is only having in the blood. So which means you can, to some extent, you can avoid this condition. So what they do, scuba divers will mix helium gas in the blood in order to decrease the solubility of this gas when they go to a depth, and hence they can prevent this painful condition called bends. Okay, so that is the third application of Henry's law. Okay, what all things we studied? We explained the term solubility, a very important property of solutions, solubility. After that, we started discussing like what are the different factors affecting solubility. We saw like the nature of the solute and nature of the solvent. If they are polar or non-polar, that is going to influence solubility, isn't it? And second one was temperature. How temperature influence solubility? There was two conditions. One for solid dissolving in liquid. You know, like you can remember it with an example, a tea sugar example, right? If you are having a hot tea, more sugar can be dissolved. So temperature increases, solubility increases in this case. And why is it so? We have well explained that, right? Fine. And next, if you have a gas dissolving in liquid, what happens? As the temperature increases, the solubility decreases. That is why we have learned that aquatic organisms are more comfortable in cold water than in hot water. Okay? Not because aquatic organisms likes a cold climate, but because they have more oxygen available. Okay, fine. Then the third one was pressure, the effect of pressure on solubility, which we explained using Henry's law. So we studied what is Henry's law. We have the mathematical expressions of Henry's law, which I am not writing now due to we don't have access to a writing board now, so that I'm not writing expressions and all. I'm just sticking to the explanation. So after that, we saw what are the different applications of Henry's law, different practical applications of Henry's law. A very familiar example was this carbonated drinks one, which all of you are familiar with, and now you understood the reason also. Why is it so? Why is that carbonated drinks, when you open it, it is having a sound. You are very clear with that, right? Okay. Then another two examples. You have changed from your classroom to a traveler. You have suddenly transformed to a traveler and you started going for mountaineering, and as a result, like, you experienced a very painful condition called anoxia. And why is it so? We have the reason now, right? We have understood the reason why when we climb to a high altitude we are feeling this dizziness, etc. Okay, and after that you have changed yourself into a scuba diver and you have seen or you have experienced another painful condition, that is bends, right? All this due to this Henry's law, you are able to understand why these particular situations are arising. Right now you have a scientific explanation to all these situations. Okay, so it is very interesting to study these things, because whenever you go to such a situation in a real life real life situations, you will be able to resonate with this explanation, right? Like, you will be recollecting, oh, it is due to that reason. Okay, I have studied Henry's law and now I know why is it so and so, isn't it? Okay, so in that sense it was a very exciting or interesting topic to be discussed, and I hope you are very clear. You have if you have any queries, any confusions, you have to ask and clarify. Any doubts? Okay, so to the next class, make sure you are very well prepared with whatever things that we have discussed today, and as usual I'll be making you to recollect all these things in the beginning. Okay.